Hello and welcome to VCC TV. The Indian market has been flooded with IPOs in the past years, with the BSE Sensex touching record highs time and again. Private and government companies, both from matured and new age sectors, have been riding the IPO wave. Also joining the IPO bandwagon was Indian Energy Exchange, which comes from a relatively nascent online power trading sector. And to talk about it, we have with us Mr. S.N. Goyal, who is the Managing Director and CEO of the company. A warm welcome to you and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the Indian Energy Exchange recently floated its IPO. It's now a listed entity. However, the online power trading sector is still at a nascent stage in India. If you could give us a sense of what the market size is like and who are the participants involved in the market.
Yeah, you are right that online trading platform in India is at a nascent stage. Today we are doing only about 3.6% of the total generation on the exchange platform. If you look at the developed countries where the electricity markets are quite evolved, they are doing almost about 30 to 70% of the total generation through the exchange. Germany, UK, they are doing more than 50%. From that point of view, yes, we are at the nascent stage. But good thing is, in the last couple of years, a lot of activities are happening in the sector now. When we started in 2008, we had acute shortage of power in the country. For development of any market, what you need is good supply, high liquidity in the supply side, robust transmission system, and good demand growth. Unfortunately, initially the supply was very less. There was shortage of power in the country. When generation capacity addition started happening from 2011-12, in 2014-15 we became sufficient in supply, rather surplus in supply. Then we started seeing transmission congestions in the country. And we had surplus capacity in the eastern and western region, whereas the south and north, which were high demand areas, had transmission congestions. So, that was not helping development of the market. Fortunately, in last 1 year, a lot of transmission capacities have been added. Today, we are operating in a virtually congestion-free market. We are having today single one nation, one grid, one price in the country. So, I am sure these enabling provisions which are now there in the market, and on the demand side also we are seeing quite impressive demand growth. Initiative taken by the Government of India for 24/7 power supply, the Subhagya scheme which has been now announced by the Prime Minister to electrify all households by December 2018. I am sure this will give boost to the demand, and now the market development activities will now start.
Also, Indian Energy Exchange has been backed by a slew of private equity and external investors such as Multiple, Tata Power, Reliance Infra, but some of them have partly or fully exited during the process of the IPO. What are the changes that the company is seeing post their partial or full exit?
Yeah, excepting for Tata Power, others have done partial exit only. We did IPO not for raising capital for the company. It was basically to provide an efficient exit for the existing investors. But from the exchange point of view, it is good. IPO is good for the exchanges because it ensures more transparency, better corporate governance, and diversified shareholding. Before the IPO, we had only about 64 shareholders in the company. Today, we have more than 150,000 shareholders. So that is good for the exchanges. And I don't see major changes in the working of the company because we are working as per the regulatory provisions of CERC under the regulatory framework. And we, in case before the IPO also, we had independent directors on the board of the company. It's a board-run company. It is not a promoter-run company. So I don't personally see any changes in the working of the company.
But Indian Energy Exchange had quite a weak listing on the stock exchanges. What are the factors that led to that?
Yeah, the initial response was not that warm, mainly because FPIs, they could not participate in the IPO. And IPO's not a participation was mainly because of the the custodians of the FPIs. They had some legal understanding given by their legal counsels that in the OFS probably they cannot participate, whereas as per the advice we received from our legal counsels and both the exchanges, They said that this is a secondary market because company is not raising any capital, so IPIs can participate. But anyhow, because of some last minute issues, they could not participate, and that is why this was the response. I am sure in time to come you will see good activities in the market.
And also, as of March 2017, you had 5,800 participants on the exchange, out of which 3,500 were active participants. How do you see this participant base growing? And tell us about some of the participants who contribute majorly to the company's volumes and revenues.
Yeah, we have two type of participants on the buy side, mainly because on the buy side we have distribution companies and the open access consumers. These open access consumers are industries, hospitals, hotels, commercial establishments. So we have almost about more than 3,800 industries who are registered with us. We have all distribution companies who are registered with us. If you look at the volume for 2015-16 and 16-17, the purchase by the open access consumers industries was almost about 60% of the total sale, and distribution companies was only about 40%. But now with the augmentation of the transmission capacity and congestion free market now, the participation of the distribution companies have improved. That has increased a lot. And this year what we saw that distribution companies purchase was almost about 65%, and open access consumers purchase was only about 35%. So there has been a significant jump in the distribution company buy, and since they are the large buyers, so I am sure when they become active, the volumes will grow definitely at a much faster pace.
And you've always maintained that you're going to play the volume game. If you could throw some more numbers on in terms of volumes, what it is now and how it's going to grow going forward?
See, it's difficult to say what is going to happen, but let me tell you, in the last 4 or 5 years, our volumes have increased at a rate of at a CAGR of more than 15%. And in spite of the fact that initially we had shortage of power in the country, thereafter we had transmission congestions, and also the financial health of the distribution companies were also one factor because of which they were not very active in the exchange also. They were preferring to do the load shedding than to supply power. I think in the last 2-3 years, a lot of positive developments have happened. There is surplus capacity in the country, and of course coal is an issue sometime, but I am sure government is also working on that, and coal issue will also get resolved. We have a robust transmission system now, and on distribution side also, under the Udaya scheme, financial health of the distribution companies have improved substantially, and government is also working on 24/7 power supply. So I am sure demand is also going to increase at a faster rate.
What about acquisition opportunities in the market? Given the market is still at a nascent stage, are there good enough assets in the market for IEX to acquire?
See, we are mainly in the exchange field. So within India, not many, but we are definitely looking at some of the opportunities in India, like setting up a gas exchange. I am sure you must have seen paper articles. Honorable Petroleum Minister Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, he has been saying that we need to develop gas market in the country. So we are also interacting with the different stakeholders to set up their gas exchanges, since we are already working on operating the power exchange, and there is a lot of synergy between the gas and the electricity exchange. So we are exploring that opportunity. Second is today forward and future contracts are not allowed on the exchange. We are only having delivery contracts. So now with the increase in liquidity on the delivery market, government is also considering to introduce forward and futures. So as and when that is allowed, maybe that will also provide us some opportunities. We are also exploring options for cross-border transactions with the neighboring countries. We have today electrical connectivity transmission system with Nepal, Bhutan and Bangladesh. So with these countries, we are working with the regulator and the government so that we are allowed to do transactions with these countries through the exchange platform. Government has already issued guidelines, so we are waiting for the regulations by the CERC as and when they are issued. So we will work on that also, in this area also.
So you touched upon the cross-border transactions. Wanted to understand your overseas expansion plans and what the markets in the neighboring countries look like vis-a-vis India.
Yeah, the market potential in Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal is not very big. These are relatively small markets, but then looking at the growing demand of power in these countries, I am sure in future they will provide us good opportunities. Not in comparison to India, may not be very that big, but then definitely yes, these are expansion opportunities. And we are also looking at some of the developing countries in the southeast and also in the African countries, if there are opportunities. But you know, for setting up a power exchange, you need certain enablers which have to be put in place by the government and the regulators. So only when those enablers are there in place, then only we can set up that exchange. So we are scanning the market. Whenever there are opportunities, we will.
Okay. And also, what does competition look like, especially competition from the Power Exchange India and traders and deep portal that has been launched by the government itself?
See, at the outset, I would like to say that competition is something which is good. Competition only improves efficiency. So, in the short-term market, there is enough competition. We have traders. We have more than 40 licensed traders by CERC, and we also have another exchange. The government has also introduced Deep Portal. Deep Portal is for doing bilateral transactions, and it is a mechanism through which they work out efficient prices. It is basically discovery of efficient electricity prices. So, but what we have seen, because of, our prices were always more competitive than all other alternate sources of power. Second is, we provide more flexibility on the exchange platform than all these options. So that is why we find that our volume last year, we saw there was a substantial increase, and in fact this year also in the last 6 months, as per the CERC power market monitoring report, exchange volumes have increased by almost about 17%, whereas the trading volumes have increased by, which is through the deep platform, only about 3%, and banking transactions have reduced by 20%. So we saw good increase in the exchange volumes, because that confidence in the exchange transactions is now happening more.
We also understand that this online power trading business is a highly regulated business. So what are some of the regulations that you want the government to address so that we can have more participants on the exchanges coming on board and the sector expanding?
See, for development of the power market, see, we are basically in the market. And only when the power market develops, the volume of the exchange will increase. So some of the regulatory and the policy interventions which are required is, one is open access. Today, unfortunately, in many of the states, high cross-subsidy surcharge and additional surcharge have been levied, because of which the open access is not becoming viable for the industries. So I think we need to rationalize these cross-subsidy surcharges so that there is a competitive framework in the distribution sector. The open access in distribution was introduced with this in mind, that this open access provision will act as a competition for distribution companies. So that we are killing it. I think we need to rationalize that. Today we have large merchant capacity in the country. We have almost about 25,000 megawatt of the merchant capacity. But you know, when it comes to coal supply, Government of India has priority in supply of coal. Coal is supplied first to the generators who have the PPAs, and only if the surplus coal is available, this is supplied under the e-auction to the merchant generators. I think these merchant generators are selling power in the country, and if the rate on the exchange is lower, it is the distribution companies who are taking advantage of that. So coal should be supplied, coal should be given to all generators based on their megawatt rating, based on their capacity. So if that is done, then that will be more liquidity in the supply side. So that is another issue, point. Then today we have in the intraday market, gate closure is 4 hours 3 hours rather. So that means you can buy power in the intraday market and it will be delivered only after 3 hours. In the developed countries, this gate closure is as low as 30 minutes. In fact, in some of the cases, it is in 5 minutes also. So we need to cut down the gate closure time so that if in case of any emergency, distribution companies can buy power in the intraday market also. CRC is already working on this. They are trying to reduce it to 1 hour, but I think that needs to be done faster. Then, separation of carriage and content, this is something which government was discussing about it. In 2003, a bill was introduced in the parliament for separation of carriage and content, but unfortunately nothing is happening on that. The new minister has again started talking about it. So if that happens, that will bring competition in the distribution sector. Then today we have many old and inefficient plants which are more than 30, 40 years old, 60 megawatt, 100 megawatt, 150 megawatt units, where the heat rate is very high. They consume more coal to generate 1 unit of power. So, and whereas on the other hand, we have supercritical plants which were set up in the last 5-6 years, not getting scheduled. So it is time now that we phase out those old plants.
And finally, I wanted to ask you, because IEX grew because of a lot of backing from private equity investors. So anything you'd like to tell the emerging investors now who are looking to invest in this sector? Why should they invest in this particular sector?
See, in the power sector, I think the worst phase is over. Now only good things can happen. So as I told you, we have surplus capacity, we have robust transmission system, demand growing. So we can only have large volume growth, and that should be reason, because in our case the cost is also something which doesn't increase with the volume growth. Cost is virtually constant in exchange business. So you have high EBITDA margin in exchange business.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you.